Hello and welcome to my show TikTok, where we talk about what makes successful people tick and what it took for them to pursue their passions, follow their dreams, and achieve their goals. The first letter of her name is synonymous with Gimmick, the 90s TV series that catapulted this original It Girl to fame. My indelible memory of her is that of the persistent, go-getting girl who would stop at nothing in trying to convince me that she deserved to be on the cover of Cosmo. She gave me a fright one day when she snuck up behind me at the office, flashing a mock-up Cosmo cover of herself. The self-confessed goal crusher eventually got her wish in 2002, and her cover turned out to be one of Cosmo's most iconic ones ever. And yet, at the height of her fame and success, she turned her back on it all and left for a journey into the unknown that brought her self-discovery and new fulfillment. 2 decades later, she has bloomed and grown into a brave and empowered women's and human rights defender, freedom fighter, and artivist, constantly redefining success on her own terms. Please welcome actress, producer, host, writer, graduate student, and director of programming of Fil-Am Arts L.A., Giselle Tongi Walters, or G. Tongi. Hi, G.
Myrza, I can't remember that.
Of course.
Wow.
Do you remember that?
Of course I remember that. It was my dream to be on Cosmo.
And you made it happen. And I remember that. Wait, let's show them the cover in question.
This was before Photoshop.
What?
Was this before Photoshop?
Well, may konti na, but...
This was in the early, wala pang atang 2000s to, di ba? 90s?
No, 2002 was the cover, but...
2002.
There you go. Look at that.
I remember this day because Marlon Corvera.
Oh my God, Marlon.
Shot it, and then Ronnie Salvacion shot the cover, and then
Right.
Juan did the makeup, of course.
Right. And this was so iconic that a young Ann Curtis made it her peg.
Wow.
She said, I want to be G. Tongi on the cover of Cosmo, and you inspired so many other women. But, back then, I know Cosmo's about self-empowerment and going after your dreams. But back then, I guess maski ako, hindi kami sanay that the actress is the one saying, put me on the cover, right? It's so not Pinoy to do that. But there you were, so brave and so what? What's the word?
Pabida.
Pabida. Alam mo naman media, di ba? They wanna discover people on their own. They don't wanna be told what to do. And so, medyo may ganun ng konti. But eventually, you really deserve to be on the cover. And may I make it clear that other people also tried to do that, but not everybody succeeded.
Well, thank you, Myrza. I just want to say, after all these years, being able to say that I was a Cosmo girl had to be the pinnacle of, my showbiz career before I left for.
Right.
So thank you for that.
I hope it helped you in your portfolio later on when you went to the US.
Yeah, no, I got an agent. I mean,
okay.
When you say, yeah, I've been on the cover of Cosmo, they know Cosmo, right? They don't know the other local magazines because it's not a subsidiary. But Cosmo. So absolutely, it got my foot in the door. And like I mentioned, it was a pinnacle of my career as an actress in the Philippines.
Right. And yet at that pinnacle, you turned your back on all of it. And tell us that story. Why did you do that? And what happened then? This was around
2000.
2000, yeah.
Myrza, I was 21
Right.
when we were so young. And I just knew that I wanted to pursue more than what I was doing. I wanted to go to school. And, I never graduated high school even. I
Oh, wow. I didn't
studied
know that.
actress and as a model. And so it got to a point where I didn't understand then what I knew now, but I just understood that there was something that didn't sit well with me in terms of my social justice lens. Like I didn't have the articulation to understand it at the time, but I just wasn't happy because I knew that, with all the poverty around us and the way I was living my life, it felt like it wasn't fair to me. So I
Right.
couldn't understand it because I was so young, but I just knew I needed to leave because
Right.
I wasn't liking the person I was becoming around everything. Yung parang
Right.
um
What kind of person is that? You mentioned narcissism in one of your interviews.
absolutely, when you're surrounded around people that are just like, "Oh my god, you're so pretty," and "Oh my god, ang galing mo," ganyan. Like you start believing that you're really good at something or that you're better than other people. And I just knew that, it wasn't the end all and be all of what I wanted to accomplish for myself. I
Right.
didn't know what that was at the time because I was still so young. And also, let's face it, New York City was beckoning. It was like
Right.
the year 2000. I was 21 years old. I had this opportunity to go to the Big Apple, to live on my own for the
Of
first
course.
time.
Yeah.
So goodbye.
And then what happened? So you studied acting in the Lee Strasberg Institute.
Yeah, so for 2 years, I went to the Lee Strasberg Institute, and it was such a humbling experience because after doing all this film and television, I study things to unlearn a lot of the
Wow.
bad habits
Wow.
that you learn, like pag nasa Pilipinas ka, o sige, breakdown, iyak, down, diba? And I had to learn like what's harder when it comes to emotion is really being a faucet and being able to turn it down. Eh kasi tayo, 'di ba, as Filipinos,
Right.
so, parang telenovela lahat. Yeah,
Melodrama.
sobrang melodrama, 'di ba? So I had to unlearn that. But I learned also that even after learning all these techniques and the method, going back to the Philippines, the system didn't allow me to do the kind of subtleness that I had learned.
Right. Right.
The kind of storylines were still the perpetuating the stereotypes of
Right. Right.
maldita ka ha kasi
Right.
ano ka,
Contrabida or bida, di ba?
right, kontrabida ka kasi mistisa ka at mayaman ka ha at dapat ma'am mga designer yung itsura. Sabi ko ha, ganon, okay, so I mean, in a way, I learned a lot of things about myself, and I also understood that acting was only one facet that
Right.
I love, but it's really as I got older was when I said, you know what, I really love producing, because
Okay.
in producing you get to build something from nothing, right?
Right. Right.
And you get to collaborate with people, with writers, with directors, as opposed to just being an actress where you're told what to do,
Right.
go there, like like you
Yeah.
not to say na my actress friends who are just actresses, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying was it wasn't fulfilling me to just
Right.
actor.
Right. And then you went to college, even if you had two children already, and you mentioned in an Instagram post that you could only study at night when you put them to bed. What was that like, and why did you decide to do it?
So Mirza, like I said, I never graduated high school even,
Right.
right? And so when I was home with my daughter who was 2 and I was pregnant with my son, I was so depressed because I was like, my whole life I was a career girl, and all of a sudden I'm just home taking care of the kids. Like, it was driving me crazy. So I had to do something for myself, Mirza. And kinarir ko yung pag-aaral. Just like
Wow.
I, made a career of my modeling and my acting, and I really went for it and I dedicated myself. I did the same thing in my academic journey because I had never been given an opportunity to do that because I started when
Right.
I was young.
Right. Right. And then after college, you came back to the Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
right? To
Yeah.
try and join showbiz again. And then what happened then?
So in 2011, I graduated with my bachelor's degree from UCLA in communications with a double minor in film, television, digital,
Right.
and theater.
Wow.
And I said, you know what? I want to go back to the Philippines and I want to produce. And so
Okay.
I did. I produced a 13 episode documentary, travel documentary about the Philippines through the eyes of second generation Filipinos. And I brought a Filipino family with me that had
Right.
been in entertainment here, the Bosco
The
family.
Bascos, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And so for 21 days, we went all over the Philippines. I shot and edited it. My co-producer, who was my mentor, Michael Carandang, was really teaching me the ropes, and I was able to sell that content to GMA Pinoy International. And it was a different kind of, parang hindi ka pagod sa shooting,
Right.
but you're so fulfilled because you're in the editing room, and it was just a different experience for me. And I wanted to do more of that, Mirza, but I feel like when they know that you're an actress, there was always this push to do more acting, and I wanted to do
Okay.
more producing,
Right. Right.
right? So I couldn't escape the acting because there were offers, and of course I didn't want to not have those opportunities, but I really wanted to be thoughtful about how I used my degree. And so I approached Rappler,
Right.
and I pitched myself to
As usual.
Maria Reza, and I showed her the things that I had done in college, and the producing things that I did. And she assigned me to be a social media producer for Rappler, doing the theater and lifestyle beat.
Right. Right.
And I loved it because I could watch all these plays and interview all this amazing talent from our theater industry. And it was really such a gratifying and fulfilling experience to be able to be around the craft,
Right.
because I
Right.
was still doing the acting. Na
Right.
talagang when I was acting, yung talagang eto na naman tayo, o sige, okay, mayaman mayaman character, Inglesera, okay, so it's hard to escape the stereotypes, and I truly believe that media has a role and responsibility to educate and entertain.
Right.
And when we're so fixated on making money and ratings, quality really suffers, right?
Right. Right.
So there has to be a balance, and like our friend Sherry Hill, who
Yes. I
balances her
sure.
kontrabida with her
Right.
theater.
Right.
um I wanted to follow her footsteps and be like, okay, I'm gonna do my theater stuff. I'm gonna do also, the TV stuff because, sure, it pays the bills, but I'm going to fulfill myself in other ways.
Right. Right. And so, why did you decide to go back to the US again?
So there was a job opportunity that was too good to pass. They were looking for a Filipino American producer who spoke Tagalog, for a local television station called LA 18, to
Right.
produce a daily talk show for Fil-Am.
Right. Right.
And when I saw that breakdown, I said, uh, that's what I want to do. That is
Right.
what I
Right.
want to do. And so I sent in my stuff. They did the interview. In 5 days, they were sending me the offer. I left my family behind for the first
Oh,
month.
you did.
I
Okay.
did. And then I went back. And then, after being in Manila for 2 years and packing 70 balikbayan boxes
Oh,
from
wow.
LA, kasi nag-press release pa ako. I'm good.
I know, I read that.
And then I'm like, no, not really.
Wow, what did your family say? Were they like, Mom, we just got here?
Well, I have to admit, Mirza, when I'm in Manila, ang hirap maging mommy. Kasi
Talaga?
ang dami kong barkada dyan eh. Tsaka, niyaya ako. So I'm like, okay, take care of the kids. I'm going out. Dito hands-on talaga ako,
Right, right.
I'm and and so I think for 2 years it was good for my kids to experience it, and I was hoping they would learn Tagalog. But the only thing they learned was how to speak English with a Tagalog accent.
Oh my gosh. Because everybody speaks English.
Yeah, because they went to a school where everybody wanted to speak to them in English when I
Right,
wanted them to learn Tagalog.
right, right.
So my daughter would come home from school, "Mommy, you know what my classmate said?" And I'm like, "Why are you talking like that?" But it was a great time to be in Manila for 2 years. But I also realized that once you're acclimated to how things are in the States, like, here I can go get gas, I can go to the grocery, I could go to the bank, I could drop off some mail at the post office and run an errand. Like, there's so many things that work efficiently that I can
Right.
do. And I just realized that, Manila is not the Manila I grew up in the 90s.
Right. Right.
Diba, iba na, Mirza? Because when we were, in our heyday, there wasn't any social media.
Right.
So it was a different time where people actually went out to see each other, to talk. Diba? As opposed to now, you go out and everybody's on their phone while they're out.
Don't tell me that's not the case there.
Well, see, here's the thing. Here, I only go out if it's a community event. Pero piling-pili talaga. Hindi katulad sa Pilipinas, ang dali kong kalad ka rin.
Right.
Yeah.
I loved some of your episodes in Kababayan today where you had you talked about masturbation, and then you had Jose Antonio Vargas on the show, even Caroline Kennedy, you had poetry reading, you had all kinds of wonderful Filipino personalities. But then the show ended.
Yeah, it ended
in 2017.
But for 3 years, imagine, Mirza, a daily show, 30 minutes a day.
Right.
I had to produce, write, host,
Oh,
like I
it
was
was a one-woman show.
Yes, I mean, I had an associate producer, but it really taught me the ropes of producing and what it takes to get from concept to broadcast. So it was
Right.
a great training ground, and I met so many people, and my net expanded exponentially, but I
Right.
was also very burnt out. And so what really happened was, in its heyday, it was making over $1 million in ad sales
Wow.
and revenue. And it had drastically dropped because for the Filipino community, advertisers will always say, well, they all speak English. Why do
Right.
you have to create culturally relevant topics for
Content, yeah.
Filipinos? Yeah, when they all speak English. So that was a very difficult challenge to overcome. And so the whole entire station, after 40 years of programming for the local Asian American community, closed down.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, a lot of people were let go. And that, in a way, that was my dream job.
Right, right.
You
And
know,
you tried to help solicit funds to keep it alive, right?
I did. And then I realized that if you're hosting, writing, producing, there is no way that you're going to try to do sales too. Like I did it for 3 months, and I said, you know what, I just don't have the bandwidth to do this, and
Right.
so I joined corporate for the first time in my life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I joined. So Tanduay, the Philippine rum brand, was launching in the West Coast, and they were looking for a communications director. And I applied for the position, and it was great because I was tasked to work with the Golden State Warriors for that partnership. And so a lot of my work entailed working with the Golden State Warriors to represent the brand.
Right.
Yeah, so that was cool because I got to, do activations for marketing and branding. And then I got to meet a lot of people up in the Bay Area as well. That was good.
Right.
That was good. Yeah. And then,
Right.
that was a year contract. And then I decided to go back to school. And then yeah, it's just been a crazy ride, Mirza.
Right. Are you still finishing your degree, master's degree in nonprofit organization, right?
Yes, so
Like
nonprofit management.
management, sorry.
Mhm. And what that really means, it's a lot of grant writing. It's a lot of analytics and metrics on how you measure the impact that you do in a community. And of
Right.
course, my focus has always been Filipino American arts and culture because that's my background.
Right. Right.
And so it's so exciting because for a year I wrote several grants that got funded, and now because of coronavirus, um, everything is leading up to this weekend, a whole year's
Right.
worth of work.
Right. Tell us about the FPAC
Yeah, so the FPAC,
2020.
it's actually everybody in the community calls it FPAC, and it stands for
Oh, FPAC.
FPAC. So
All
it
right.
stands for the Festival of Philippine Arts and Culture. It's a 26-year-old tradition, and it was born in the city of Los Angeles in 1992, right after the riots, the LA riots. Right. And it's the 27th Festival of Philippine Arts and Culture. We call it Tuloy Po Kayo. And it's virtual this year. And all that means is that we have assembled 10 disciplines from various fields, from theater, John Briones, who's an actor, from music. We have Apple Diap. We have J. Ray Soul, who is the newest Filipina member of the Black Eyed Peas. We're working with Broadway Barkada, who our organization commissioned to write an original song. We're working with Filipino AF, which is a Filipino comedy group. And so we have multidisciplines in comedy, culinary, martial arts, dance, theater, acting, pelicula, and media. And yeah, it's just been crazy to think that because of the coronavirus, we've all had to do this from home, which
Wow.
which means like there's an amazing opportunity to bring people together that most likely you wouldn't be able to. And so, we got an opportunity to have Nico Santos share what
Right.
it means to be a Filipino artist in America, Dante Bosco, all the leading people that are breaking ground in Hollywood have been so supportive to participate in this year's festival.
Right. And you are director of programming for this whole thing. What a job. So you've been very busy all month. It's also Philippine American History Month. Is that
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's right. So Filipino American History Month. Not a lot of people know that during the Manila galleon trade back in the early 1500s, Filipinos were already coming to America long before the Pilgrims came from um, from uh, Great Britain and that area, right? So Filipinos would come through Tomorrow Bay from the Philippines on Spanish galleon
Wow.
ships. And it was the datus and the leaders that the Spaniards would put on those ships. And so these were the people that settled in America. And so not a lot of people know that.
I didn't
Uh,
know that.
yeah, know that history. And so, in terms of celebrating Filipino American History Month, I'm learning myself so much about the earlier manongs, of how they used to be, segregated, like Filipino men. A lot of Filipino men in the 1930s came to America to work in the canneries and the agriculture business, and they were not allowed to um, to
Mingle or to
mingle with
right,
white people,
right,
right? There were misogynistic laws about that.
right,
And so a lot of art, like the Manongs and Carlos Bolosan, like these are the
yeah,
stories that
right,
um, I'm only discovering. Uh,
right.
yeah, so it's really cool how the Filipino community here, know way more than I ever knew living in the Philippines.
Right. And how did you come to be involved with the Fil-Am community over
Um,
there?
I think, when I moved to New York, I knew a couple people that were in the industry that told me, hey, when you get to LA, make sure you call these people. And then, these people, I mean, it's such a welcoming community, right? You meet one person who's like, oh, I have to introduce you to this and this and this. And then it just opens up. And everybody that's hustling, that's an actor, that's a writer who's Filipino, everybody needs to hustle, because
Right.
discrimination is real. And the most difficult part, I think, Mirza, was when I first came to LA and to Hollywood. I was so gung-ho that I'm a Filipina, and they're like, you don't look like a
Yeah.
Filipino. And I was like, no, I'm a Filipino. You want me to talk in a Filipino accent? And they're like, no, not really. Maybe you should come back tomorrow for the Latina casting. And I was always like, so um, that's always been the crux of
Right.
trying to act in America, is that I can never play my heritage,
Right.
right?
Right.
Mixed, being biracial. And so that's why I've really chosen to pivot, to make sure that I'm able to create stories about Filipinos who look Filipino, and and be able to produce those stories that are never told.
Right. It's also you've also made it your mission to educate and organize Fil-Ams and teach them about issues like diversity or colorism and raise awareness about freedom, human rights back in the Philippines as well. And I think you're a convener for Malaya. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I got involved with activists here in LA, especially after I heard about all the human rights violations that have been happening in the Philippines, more so than the Marcos times, right? Uh,
Right.
this administration by far has more human rights cases than in the 1970s, which is preposterous to think, right? We're in the year 2000s, and yet, there's so much that um, people turn a blind eye to, and I really wanted to be able to use my voice to share what's going on. And so I got invited to go to Brussels. I had never been to Brussels before, and I got invited to attend the International People's Tribunal.
Wow.
And when I was there, I got to meet the head of um, a lot of the unions in the Philippines, the union of jeepney drivers, the union of sugarcane workers, young academics. And all of them had this case against the administration, talking about how um, they're being sold to people like China, or governments like China. And I just learned so much that I didn't know then, but I knew why it struck me so much was because I grew up, my mom was an OFW. My mom would go to Italy. She would go to, Tokyo. She was constantly traveling when I was a young girl because there were hardly any opportunities for mom in the Philippines, right? And so I
Right.
didn't understand at the time why there's forced migration. And so when I understood the plight of the Filipino, um, because of the circumstances that administrations um, put on daily life, my eyes really began to open about how there's so much at stake if we remain silent,
Right.
right?
Right. And speaking up has not been easy because you get trolled. Like while doing research on you, I saw so many, oh my gosh, shocking insults and
Oh my gosh, Myrza,
bashing and false
ibang
information
klase.
about you.
Ibang klase talaga.
Unbelievable. How do you deal with that? Do you even look at them and how does it affect you? How do you
I
keep
will
going?
tell you, yeah, I will tell you this. It's not easy. You can say na, oh, I'm just not going to open my Instagram or I'm
Right.
not going to, but really, when you are personally attacked for your value system, when there is absolutely no respect for dissent,
Right.
um, you start to wonder what's going on in the world, right?
Right.
And I just remember when Mocha Yuson was ASEC secretary, I was like scratching my head, going, "What the hell is going on?" Like I could not understand how people saw what she was saying as legitimate,
Right.
from the highest power of government. So, I think media literacy is so important. And that's not something that, people just have off the bat, right? It's
Right.
something that you really have to learn. You have to have discussions about. But the first step is having a respectful conversation with someone who may not agree with your beliefs.
Right. Right. This
Eh, ang
is,
problema, hindi na tayo pwedeng mag-usap eh. Parang,
I know.
ito na.
I think we're so non-confrontational as a people that any kind of conversation where there is disagreement, they think it's bashing, right? Or even if you just open up a topic for debate, they think you're what, insulting their leader, or what do you want to tell Pinoys about not being afraid to talk about things, to have a conversation in order to air opposing views?
Yeah, let's face it, Mirza, I live here in the States, so it's easier for me to be able to speak about this. I
Right, right.
cannot imagine living in the Philippines right now with the terror bill and how anybody can accuse anyone of being a terrorist. Like,
And now there's like red tagging. Even Angel Locsin's brother is being red tagged.
that's crazy. You see, so that's the thing. And red tagging, right? It's so easy to, when anybody has anything to say or to question, you ultimately put them in this category.
Right.
Well,
Even Liza Soberano at the moment.
really?
Yes.
So so here's the thing. It takes courage, but we cannot let history repeat itself. We have to be able to know where we stand. And look, I mean, Maria Ressa is like one of my modern day heroes,
Right.
right? Despite the odds and despite the harassment, she stands firm in what she believes in and what she needs to do in terms of democracy. And I feel like pwede naman tayong mag-disagree eh. Wag lang tayong magbastusan,
Right.
right? And I don't know how many more years of this can people endure.
Right.
Hirap na yung mga Pilipino.
Right.
You know, it's hard. And that's the thing, Mirza, I didn't realize I've always been an empath. I just didn't know what that meant, right? Like that um, that I
You feel
nahihirapan ako pag nahihirapan. Yeah, nahihirapan ako pag, like here I am in my cozy apartment drinking wine. Like I have a hard time, like even with social media, I'm constantly thinking about what I'm putting out into the world because I would never want to flaunt or off as
very sensitive.
narcissistic
Right.
or insensitive, right? Because hey, let's face it, we love fashion, right? But there's a line where it's like you can be fashionable but not be flashy.
Right, right,
And granted, I love our flashy friends, right? Who
right,
are over the top. But there's something to be said about what the Philippines is. It is a third world country. So when you're having lavish parties and you're constantly like posting about it, I it nahirapan ako kasi alam ko kung gaano kahirap yung buhay sa Pilipinas.
right, right. And so meanwhile, how are you fighting our fight over there?
Every time I'm asked to participate in any kind of forum that talks about democracy or what it means to use your voice for good, I always try to accommodate that. And I'm constantly learning too. Like ang dami ko pang hindi alam, right? But I think it's being able to have healthy discussions with people that I may not agree with, but I learn from. But it's always respectful. And
Right,
when it becomes disrespectful, then I have to take myself away from that situation because I know that it's not benefiting me.
right,
So I always try to engage people. A lot of people here in America who are Filipinos are for Trump, right?
right,
And I try my best. I try my best to have that conversation. Na bakit? Ay kasi Republican kami at yung mga naghihirap dapat meron silang trabaho dahil kami nagtatrabaho, and then we talk about systemic racism, and then
right,
I say do you agree that there's racism among black people, and they're like hindi, tamad lang sila, and I'm like wait a minute. Diba? So it's about having those conversations in a way that is respectful and that promotes healthy dialogue as opposed to just being shut off about
right.
our belief system.
Wow, that takes a lot of tiyaga and patience because
Ang
it's easier
hirap.
to just think, nako, ayoko nang kausapin yung mga yan. Hindi mo sila makakonvince, but you take the time and the
Yeah.
effort to do so.
And Mirsa, what's even more challenging is that in my own family, I have
Wow.
people that are, that think that this authoritarian
Yes.
governments,
Right, right.
parang America is mirroring the Philippines,
Right.
right? These authoritarians. So, history will remember, and I think that's why it's so important that we pick a side, right? And we can vacillate between what those are. It doesn't have to be black and white, but I think it starts off with pag-usapan natin para
Right.
hindi tayo just in the dark. And like I
Right.
said, it's easy to say that because I'm here. Kasi Mirsa, mas madaling maging nationalistic pag wala sa Pilipinas.
I think so. Because when you're here, you just tend to think of yourself and how does it affect you. If it doesn't affect you, it's easy to turn a blind eye and live in your comfort zone. But
Mhm.
maybe over there, you have a different lens with which to view the country.
Yeah, I think it's more about we are a very tribal people, right?
True.
We
True.
will always take care of our own first before we think about other people. And that is really the biggest challenge of my work as a nonprofit professional is
Right.
because Filipinos, they will give to three things, Mirsa. They will give to religion, Diba? Every time at the church,
True.
magbibigay. They will give to relief efforts. O pag may bagyo, pag may lindol, o sige, bigay. And then they will give to regional affiliations. Batangas sa ano, ganyan, club. But they do not give to arts and culture because wala sa Pilipino ang philanthropic giving.
Right, right.
Because we're always thinking about ourselves and our families, which
Right.
we have to, right? But at the same time, philanthropy is also a very Western concept, but I don't believe that it's only a Western concept, right? I understand that it's just about educating the Filipinos of how important the work of artists are,
Right.
that we should support them. And the
Right.
fact that, we have national artists in the Philippines na namamatay na walang-wala
Right.
shows how society doesn't value
Right.
the contributions of artists.
Right. Which is tragic because we're such an artistic people and our culture
Mhm.
is so rich in talent and
So much talent.
excellence in the arts.
But also, Mirza, I think it's because we're not artistic by trade or by training,
Okay.
right? It comes natural to us, right?
Right.
A lot of our singers aren't trained professionals,
Right.
right? And so because it's so tied into our culture, the value of it is not
Right.
given its
Right.
due.
Right. Like anyone can sing. I'm Pinoy, so diba? It's
Right.
not so rare. Right. And uh how do you think the arts and our culture and promoting that uh can help in activism? How can it help change things?
Yeah. So art and activism are tied together because art has a way for us to really experience humanity, right? When we watch a movie, when we watch a play, when we listen to music, we are affected. Alam mo yung tagus puso talaga.
Right, right.
And because of the humanity that one experiences through art, when you tie activism into art, artivist, right? Then you're able to penetrate um, someone's soul with
Right,
messaging that, and it's not propaganda. That's different,
right.
right? But when you combine art and activism, then it really has the capacity to break down barriers, and that's really what I believe in when it comes to art is that we can disagree on many things, but the one thing that we can agree about is the way we feel about certain things when we're exposed to that art.
Wow. Wow, so well articulated. I'm
Thank
so
you, Mirza.
proud. I'm so proud of how articulate and enlightened you've become. Can't believe it's the same girl who wore cowboy hats and cowboy boots
Oh my
dropping by
gosh.
the Cosmo office. You've also written something for a book called On Her Purpose, which
Yes,
is
in her purpose.
In Her Purpose, Asian
Mhm.
American women who have defied social and cultural conventions. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I'm so fortunate to have been invited to sort of tell my story about what it means to be a third world celebrity. I'd like to use that title. It's actually the title of my hopefully one day memoir.
Oh wow! You better start writing it now.
Yeah, I've been writing it for a long time, Mirza. So I just, coming from the Philippines where everything, I have to admit, dahil mistisa ko, dahil ganito itsura ko, I was given a lot more opportunities than
Right.
everybody else. And I recognize that. Recognize that. And I don't want to say that, it's white privilege, but it's white privilege. It is And let's face it, pag mistisa ka sa Pilipinas,
Right. Automatic.
automatic, 'di ba? And so in understanding how my mom struggled and how I joined showbiz, but ultimately decided to leave it because I understood that that's not the end all and be all of,
Right.
what defined me. I'm constantly, I think all of us are constantly trying to figure out every single day what their contribution to the world will be.
Right.
And for this book, my contribution was really to share the the privilege afforded to me as a mestiza, and understanding that my life in the Philippines was extraordinary, and I recognize that, and I've had so many amazing opportunities to work with people like you, Mirza, and to be surrounded around the people we work with. Like,
Right. Right.
I did films with Maricel Soriano and Richard Gomez, and all these iconic people that I've been able to collaborate with. Um,
Right.
and so that's left an indelible mark on the way I think and the way I want to present myself to the world. And so I'm always constantly thinking, how can I serve as an example to show that I'm more than just what you see?
Right. In the book, also, it says that all the women who contributed to the book redefine success on their own terms.
Mhm.
Uh, if we look at success as defined by Pinoy's success of a showbiz personality, of course, success here is equated with big houses and cars and property and, flashy, speaking of flashy, designer handbags and the like, all the usual parameters or status symbols. What do you think about that? And how have you measured your own success versus this conventional parameter?
What a great question, Mirza.
Pang beauty queen.
Pang beauty queen nga talaga. Let
Thank
me
you for that wonderful question.
buying my time. Let me think
Right,
about this.
right, right.
My family just walked in, so my dog was like, "Oh." Um, I success is relative. And
Right.
yes, a lot of my friends are successful. They've got big cars, they've got big houses, they've got cars, they've got all the material, designer, whatever. And I'm not going to say that I don't like those things too, right? I just have to save up for them. And
Right.
so when I do, it feels more precious to me because I worked hard for it. And also, my value comes from my relationships and the people that I'm able to connect with and collaborate with. That is my net worth. My net worth is my network,
Wow.
not
I like it.
yeah, it's the people that I can say I can run to for advice. Before this call, Mirza, I gave, Tita Angeli Valenciano a call to say, hey, I'm going to go on Mirza's show. I'm a little
Oh, wow.
nervous,
Nervous.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous because we've never really had this like we've never,
True. I think
right?
ever.
Right? Because when we're out, do we really get to talk?
I remember JR and I gave you and your husband, then boyfriend, a ride back home from embassy one night. That's it. Right.
Yeah, yeah. But we've
Right.
never had this conversation, right? So these are the moments to me that I value because I know, Mirza, the next time I see you, meron na tayong, oy, naalala mo na, 'di ba? Hindi lang hindi lang gimmick sa orange nung araw.
Oh my God, orange. 7, 8 orange ba yun?
Yes, yes. And like, people like there are a few people that are near and dear to my heart that I still talk to in the Philippines that I'm so grateful to have in my orbit, and call my friends. Like Shuri Hill is one of them. Eric Kizon is one of them, and these are the people that have mentored me, that have, that have been a bouncing board whenever I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a memoir. And it was Sherry who said, Hoy, bata ka pa. You're in your 40s. Marami ka pang bigas na kakainin.
We're also waiting for her memoir, Cherie.
Yes.
Right.
But success, I think, is really what makes it success for you. For you, Mirza, what is success?
I think I like what you said. Your net worth is your net worth. And so I'll take a cue from you. Speaking as somebody who's also redefining herself, I'll take lessons from the queen of reinvention, who is you. And speaking of showbiz parameters, also societal parameters for the success of people who have been in the limelight, body image. I saw your post where you said more wrinkles and pounds, but a fuller and more compassionate heart. Happy to be aging in the skin I'm in. Hashtag love the body you're in. Now, it's very Pinoy to make judgments about people who used to be in the limelight. I know beauty queens, models, they live in constant fear of not living up to expectations of how they used to look when they were young. What is your take on this? And I'm sure you experience it too.
Oh, all the time. All I gotta say to Filipinos is, it is rude when you say, Hoy, tumawag ka. Parang ang rude. Don't be
Super.
rude, di ba? Some PC, political correctness, like, do not insult someone over their weight, right? And yeah, I'm no longer 120 pounds, but guess what? I'm so much more knowledgeable about things that I didn't know before.
Right.
And who doesn't want to look good?
Right.
I would love the opportunity to have the time to go to yoga every day, run. Whenever I saw you running, Mirza, I was like, ako rin! Ako rin!
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, but like, still, we as women and people that are busy in our careers, we have to make time for ourselves too. And I think it's important that we understand that's important, but that's not the only thing that should define us. So yeah, for people that are like, "Uy, tumaba ka," thank you. Masarap po pagkain eh.
Was it easy for you to be that okay with it, or did you have to struggle with it as well? Or did it take a long time?
Oh yeah, I struggle with it, and my family will tell you, like, I go on weeks where I'm like only having tea, and then I'll only have chocolate. And then, I go to a party and then there's cake, and of course I'm gonna eat cake, right?
Right.
So being healthy is a lifelong pursuit. It's not just fitting into those jeans. It's being able to wake up mentally healthy as well. I think we pay too much attention to the way we look.
Right.
What we should really be thinking about is how we perceive the world around us. Because
Right.
yun na nga, pag nasa Pilipinas ka and you're given everything and a silver spoon and everybody just constantly uh, tells you how great you are, how beautiful you are, how good you look, it does something to yourself, and it's not healthy. And so, like, people like Isa Calzado, I love Isa because she's also redefining and being open
Right.
to the fact that she's
Show
not.
it all.
Yeah, and also it doesn't help that social media is so, like, easy on the filters, guys. Minsan talaga yung filter parang, and it's so styled, like, I understand you have a whole team guiding you, but people who don't understand what goes into, social media, that makes them feel insecure about themselves, right?
Right.
And I tell my daughter, I have a 15-year-old daughter who's also constantly like thinking about this, and I'm like, it's not just this, it's this.
Right.
right? But of course, that's hard to tell a 15-year-old, right? But I'm learning as she's growing to be easier on myself because that's a reflection to her on
Right.
how she talks to herself
Right.
about her body.
Things
Is
that
how
she
she
hears you say.
yeah, how she sees me always saying, grabe yung tabako. Grabe,
Right.
kung kainin yan, pero ang tabako. It's that
Right.
constant dialogue. So
Right.
be kinder to yourselves, guys.
What's your wish for the Filipino today, uh, about how they view the country and the world and each other and humanity and their fellow man and
I,
their
I truly believe in the psychology of the Filipino, yung kapwa, 'di ba? That you see yourself in others. And I just had an interview the other day with a dear friend of ours as well, Cher Calvin. And what it really means to be Filipino is when you look at your other co-Filipinos, it's like pag pag successful sila, happy ka for them, as opposed to seeing their success as your failure. Um, I truly believe that if we build each other up instead of all the chismes and the talking about other people, we'll be more productive as a society. Um, if we learn to have a kinder lens to others, not just to yourselves but to others, right? Napakaano kasi ng Pilipino critical of other
right.
people.
Sobrang judgment.
That's
Sobrang
right.
mulait.
Oh,
Bakit ba?
that's
Bakit ba?
true. And and that's not helpful. That's not helpful. Hi, Kelly. Thank you.
It's really not helpful. And I don't know, maybe we can urge them not to be so laitero. I know it's fun, but then find another kind of fun, I think. Be kind to yourself and to others. What do you think?
No, it's true. It is fun, especially when you're with your friends and
And because
a
it's
safe
there's
space.
schadenfreude, right? You feel better if you bash others, but it just contributes to our crab mentality, I think.
I agree. I agree. What does it look like for us to celebrate others
Right.
instead of tear each other down? And that's why I'm so excited about the Festival of Philippine Arts and Culture,
Yes.
because watching so Broadway Barkada is a group of Filipinos that have been on Broadway, and they're going to be singing a song that our organization commissioned them to sing. And singing and seeing the excellence of the Filipino in the arts just makes your heart swell with pride. Like, Filipino ako. You know what I mean? And so I'm hoping that we can find it in ourselves to be happy for others when they are successful.
Great. That's a great parting message. Thank you so much, G, for being with us today. Thank you for inspiring us with your passion and your courage and fighting for what you believe in, no matter what challenges these times bring. Thank you. Want to invite everybody to join your virtual fiesta?
Yes, so please make sure if you don't have the Kumu app, go to our website, www.filamarts.org, and then it's right there, or filamartsla.org, and you can download the Kumu app there. We will be streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on our website, and it's going to be at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which should be 10 a.m. in Manila on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And I just want to say, Mirza, you look great. You look
Oh, wow.
amazing. You
Thank
really
so
do.
you. You have an amazing glow.
Thank you.
All right.
Highlighter. But thank
Bye,
you for
G.
this
Thank
opportunity.
you. And hope to see you in person really soon.
All right. Take care.
All right. Good luck to your event.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. This has been TikTok, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.